schooling in America, a problem. The inner city schools crumbling, give horrible education with people reading well below grade level. And as I begin, just a request, if you like this, make sure to share the video with a friend and thumb it up on YouTube. Leave a comment also with your thoughts on this subject. How am I wrong? What am I not taking into consideration? So there is a huge problem in the public school system. Now, Democrats, leftists, always want to blame the Republicans, and the Republicans often want to transfer the blame to the Democrats. The question is, what actually works? Now, in this case, we're talking about Baltimore because Kim Klasic, a black female Republican, who's running for Congress in that district, released a very effective ad that I really enjoyed.
I'm Kim Klasic. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years.
Democrats have held Baltimore for the last 53 years. 53 years straight. So the problems in Baltimore are due to Democratic governance, unless one of the former Republicans from 60 years ago, his influence is still present throughout the city. So let's just set the table with that. But one thing that I want to say is that, believe it or not, even though I'm now right of center, I too want children to have a great public school education. I too want them to be able to grow up and be successful in life, if for no other reason, because of the selfish gene gets kicked in, because I don't want them to come and beat me over the head for my wallet. And I think that if they're well educated and they're successful, there's a less likelihood of that. So even if I'm the racist and just completely horrible person, I still want them to be successful for my own survival and that of my family's. So let's make it clear. We're on the same page. I too want people to get a great education. Now, one of the things is that way too few kids in America have been able to pick and choose their own schools. And way too many have been stuck in schools that they have no alternatives to. And therein lies the problem. Are you comfortable with allowing more affluent families to choose their schools while denying poorer families the opportunities? Guess who is responsible for this? This is the Democrats' fault. You know why? Because the teachers' unions have major moolah and influence over the vote. They promise Democrats that they will put their considerable weight behind their elections in exchange for the fact that the teachers' unions are protected. Charter schools offer an alternative to public education. They siphon money, possibly, out of the current public schools that are available. It's competition. Now, for the average citizen, competition is a fantastic thing. Just take a look at Apple and Samsung. Imagine the phones that existed maybe 7 years ago and then compare them to today. It is a race. It is a war. It is a competitive war for your dollar as a consumer. And the magnificent thing is that these phones are absolutely amazing with GPS, the ability to use maps to navigate you, and cameras that are as good today as DSLR cameras inside of this little box, this little magical box. And this is the result of competition. Competition is a good thing, unless you're a union, in which case you want to inhibit competition. And guess what is competitive? Charter schools. Imagine, Republicans want people to have a subsidy, a voucher that they can choose to spend at the school of their choice. Competition. Hey, if one school doesn't work out, and again, this doesn't necessarily mean that the charter school is going to be better for sure. It just means that there's competition. So people have to up their game in order to keep the money flowing in order to keep the students and the parents happy. When you have no choice, it's like going to the DMV. Hey, you've waited in line for an hour. We're going to break for lunch. Who cares about you? Hey, you waited all this time, but you filled this form out wrong. Get to the back of the line. That's my personal experience at a lot of DMVs, and I'm sure that many of you can relate. I know that some of you in small towns have had better experiences. Unfortunately, in Los Angeles, that is generally the case. Lack of competition equals lack of quality from the organization that is supposed to provide you service. Anytime you get a monopoly, look, Cox Cable. If anybody's tried to deal with Cox Cable, They're infuriating to deal with. They don't care. They're not going to offer you a break. They're not going to offer you understanding because they are a profit maximizing machine, and they have basically what is a monopoly. Imagine how much it costs to fire a public school teacher. Do you have any idea? The estimate that I've heard is something like $500,000. That's how much it costs taxpayers in order to fire a teacher that's not performing up to standards, because once again they are protected by the teachers unions. Again, this is one of the problems that the left rightfully points out about the police, is the fact that the police unions protect bad officers. This is not good for anyone when this takes place. And a lot of time, the teachers that have done something wrong, whether it be an altercation with a student, whether it be bad teaching, whether it be showing up late, whatever it is, they are relegated to a teacher purgatory where they go to a room and they work on their laptop, not serving the public during school hours, and still get paid. This is wasteful money, yet the public schools decry the fact that the charter schools are siphoning money away. But this is where part of the money that are going to public schools heads towards. It's not a matter of spending more money. It's about providing competition, because it's the easiest way to ensure that there are going to be improvements. Look, when I used to rent out my place on Airbnb, because of the immense competition, I wanted those 5-star ratings. I went out of my way to make sure that people had a fantastic time, or that I served them to the best of my possible ability, simply because I wanted the 5 stars, because I wanted added business, because then you can charge a higher price. It's a wonderful thing for the client. It's a wonderful thing for me, and it ups the game of everybody, because this is the nature of competition once again. Yet it is thwarted, and the Democrats are the ones that thwart charter schools at behest of the teachers union, who throw their political weight around, infusing money into the campaigns of Democrats who, once again, in return, in a matter of reciprocity, protect the unions. Not good for anyone. Again, the example of competition, just take a look at the post office. Then you suddenly get FedEx, DHL, UPS. Suddenly the post office has electronic tracking. They have overnight delivery. This didn't used to be the case. This is a result of a government entity that has to compete with the private market. In Finland, in Scandinavia, they actually spend far less money per student, and they yield far better results than the average American. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to decrease the spending. Maybe you actually do have to increase it, but you have to demonstrate how that is going to better the education, because a lot of it has to do with what happens at home when you have a single mom and an uninterested student, and the mother cannot control her child. What are we going to do? How are you going to ensure that that student gets the same education and achieves at the same rate, regardless of the fact that they might be just as intelligent as someone with parents, a 2-parent family, who really cares and plunges their resources, considerable that they might be, into tutors, into ensuring that the child is prepared, etc., etc. There's no real way to control for that. And this is what happens when you have tight family units. So the solution, in my opinion, is tighter family units, as well as increased competition for the public schools. It's a really simple solution. You'd have to take a low resolution view of this and just examine the role of competition and the fact that the Democrats are weighing down intentionally and suppressing competition. And this is the role of unions. Unions are there to protect their members, and they throw their political weight around, and the Democrats protect them. So you want to blame this on Republicans? No. 53 years straight in Baltimore, in most major cities that have crumbling public school systems, terrible results, is Democratic run. So you just institute the charter schools, the choice that parents have the ability to send their children where they desire, and suddenly you're going to see a vast increase in quality, in the results that are yielded, because that's what competition does. Whether it's your cell phone, whether it's the mail, or whether it's public schools and charter schools combined. That's what's going to happen. That is how we get the result. Peace and blessings to y'all out there. Let's raise the level of education for our students, because it betters us as a nation and as a world. I'm all for this. This is my solution. If you guys have thoughts, leave a comment. Peace out. If you're new, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.